What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking Tables. I'm your host, Alex, and today we've got a big show. Today we'll be discussing every single defensive player on the Buffalo Bills that's scheduled to hit free agency. Every single player. Joey Bosa, Matt Milano, all the way to the Sam Franklins and Cam Lewises. So make sure you stay tuned to the end to hear about every single guy. And we'll be playing a little bit of a game deciding whether to let the guy walk or re-sign him. There will be a lot of walking, especially with the new regime, new Joe Brady head coaching job. It's going to look a little different, and that's expected. But first, I just want to say how grateful I am to be a Bills fan, and you should too. Because today, I saw the news that Kirk Cousins was released by the Atlanta Falcons. And guess how much money he made? Guess how much money he pocketed from the Falcons organization? $100 million. In the 2 years of playing for the Falcons, he made $100 million. That's insane. That's got to go up with one of the best heists in history. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get to our first player that we'll be talking about, Joey Bosa. Now, when he signed with Buffalo last offseason, I think it's safe to say everyone was excited. And why shouldn't they be? A big name player leaving a team like LA who were struggling for so long. Anthony Lynn, Brandon Staley, they just couldn't get it done. So a guy like Joey Bosa, it makes sense if he doesn't produce to his fullest, right? So when he signs with Buffalo on a clean slate, everyone's expecting him to finally be able to tap into that potential. But unfortunately, he couldn't. Finished the season with 5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles in 15 games. That's just not ideal. That's not what you want. And I know that contract he signed in the offseason, it was only $12 million for 1 year, which is pretty nice. But it kind of makes sense when you look back at it. He wasn't able to produce at the level that anyone really hoped. You're not signing him for 5 sacks. You're not. Otherwise, you just give AJ Epenesa more time. So when a guy like Joey Bosa disappoints you, I think the smartest thing to do is just move on from him. If you give him another year, I'd be really surprised. I think Brandon Beane is just going to move on from a guy like Bosa. His time in Buffalo has come to an end. And you look further. You look for actual game wreckers. People that have actually proven and can be consistent, or at least somewhat. Bradley Chubb, I know we already talked about him a little bit, so I won't talk too much about that. But he is a game wrecker. He is a great pass rusher and can get you 8 sacks a season minimum. Trey Hendrickson, if you want to look a little north of 25 million, maybe 30 million, maybe even 35. But if he's 35, obviously you're not paying that. And when you look at those big names and then you look back at Joey Bosa, it's like, why not just draft someone if you're not willing to invest in a Chubb or Hendrickson? And that's the way I'm looking at things now. You have AJ Epenesa hitting free agency. We're going to talk about him next. You might as well just retain AJ Epenesa and draft someone rather than bring in a Joey Bosa, pay him another 10 to 15 million a year for what, 5 sacks? No disrespect, but he just wasn't able to take his talent to the next level. Moving on, we got AJ Epenesa, and he signed a 2-year, $12 million deal with the Bills 2 years ago, and now his contract is up for renegotiation. He didn't do much on the stat sheet this year, 2.5 sacks, 4 passes defended. I love when he bats the passes down, but you're not paying a guy millions of dollars to do that. He's got those long arms. He can defend the run pretty well, shed those blocks, but he's not that quick of a pass rusher. He doesn't have that burst. And I know I keep on going back to Bradley Chubb, but that's the perfect comparison. And that's why you pay guys like Bradley Chubb. But Epenesa isn't demanding $12 million a year like Bosa. Epenesa is only going to demand max $7 to $8 million a year. And if you're able to get him in that sweet spot, 5 to 7, and especially because he didn't really produce that much this year, maybe you can lean closer to 5. Spot Track right now has him at 6.4. So that seems pretty right. That seems pretty fair. But I think you can get him even closer, maybe a $5.8 million, maybe just 6 flat again. If you can bring him back for that kind of money, I am all for bringing back a guy like AJ Epenesa, especially when you have Bosa walking. You still need some guys on the roster. Re-sign Epenesa, draft an edge, and then go out for Chubb. When I mean draft an edge, you can grab someone late just to fill that roster spot, especially because we don't really know when Landon Jackson will be back. You don't want to rush him, especially because he's so raw already. Let him take his time. Next on the list, Matt Milano. A fan favorite, one of my favorite Bills ever since I've started watching the team, but I think his time in Buffalo is done. And I'm not just saying that. Earlier last offseason, when there were a couple contract restructures going on, Matt Milano negotiated a contract restructure with Brandon Beane. It included a pay cut that can be paid back fully through incentives, while also removing the final year of his contract. That would be the 2026 year. So now he's a free agent. Why would he even do that? Well, it's pretty easy. Matt Milano is banking on finding one last big contract before he can retire. And if he keeps that one last year in Buffalo, if he plays for Buffalo in 2026, he'll hit free agency a year older and will probably make less money in that big deal he signs with someone else. And when you look across the National Football League, any team would really be happy to get a guy like Matt Milano. He did so good for the Buffalo Bills for so long. And I really think that his value that he brings to a defense, especially with that veteran presence, it's very hard to turn away. So with all that being said, I think it's safe to say that Milano is on his way out of Buffalo, whether we like it or not. And it was a great run. Always loved the guy. Just such a likable player. And he brought so much to the defense. It's going to be sad to see him go, but I hope that he's able to secure a decent bag heading into this free agency. Next up, Shaq Thompson. Possibly the replacement of Matt Milano. I would love to have Shaq Thompson back, but before we get into that, I just want to say he got signed to a veteran minimum heading into this season. $1.2 million, and he just showed out. 56 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and 2 passes defended. As well, in the playoffs, 13 total tackles in that interception against Jacksonville. Diving back, was able to pick it. Just amazing. And when you see him being able to play at such a high level, as old as he is, no disrespect, but he's been around for a long time. I think Shaq Thompson has a bright future in Buffalo. I think that you're able to bring him back for $3 to $5 million a year, especially when you have guys like Matt Milano hitting free agency. They're going to attract a lot more attention. If you can sneakily re-sign Shaq Thompson as soon as possible, especially because he doesn't just have ties with Sean McDermott back in Carolina, but he has ties with Brandon Beane. And Brandon Beane is not going anywhere. Actually, he was promoted. So with that being said, I think that Shaq Thompson is going to be a Bill. At least I would love to hit him with that re-sign because he won't be that expensive and he will definitely outperform his contract as he did last year. And the next player we have on the list is DaQuan Jones, the defensive tackle, more specifically nose tackle. And I'm saying nose tackle because Deon Walker definitely took some of his job this year. And that's encouraging, very encouraging. An aging DaQuan Jones only played 12 games this year. Not much production. He was great for the Bills the past few years, but this year you saw a little bit of a drop-off. And with that, you saw the emergence of Deon Walker. The 5th round rookie surpassed all expectations. I had really high hopes for him. I really liked him coming out of the draft. I'm not going to toot my own horn that much, but I really liked him coming out of the draft, and I'm still shocked. I had no clue he would be able to cause that much disruption in the pass game as well. He can move so fast and quick at how big and heavy he is. It's quite insane. And I think that we've only seen the start of Deon Walker as a Bill. I'm very excited to see him go into year 2. So with that being said, DaQuan Jones is kind of not really needed anymore. And we saw that on his Twitter. We saw that he already made his decision. When the Bills lost to the Broncos, DaQuan Jones said that he was a free agent. There were a couple guys coming at him in the comments and stuff like that, and he replied to them saying that he is a free agent, basically indicating that he doesn't have any interest coming back here. And then when McDermott got fired, DaQuan Jones backed him up and advocated for him. So that's two tweets that are a little controversial. And 3, when Mike Vrabel was going on his Super Bowl run, DaQuan Jones applauded Mike Vrabel. He said some kind stuff on his Twitter and praised him, basically meaning that he could even still stay in the AFC East next year. He could be a Patriot for all we know, but we guarantee he's not a Buffalo Bill. And the best thing is the Bills don't need him. No disrespect. He was a great player for the Bills, especially when they needed him. A great nose tackle alongside Ed Oliver, whoever he really had next to him. He was also able to kind of play that 3-tech role when he was needed, but he's best at nose tackle. And as he gets older, it's really important the Bills look towards replacements and young players they want to fill in those roles. And Deon Walker is that guy and more. We're going to stay with the defensive tackles here and talk about Larry Ogunjobi. Do I need to say more? Signing with the Bills last offseason 1 year, $6.6 million deal. A little pricey as is for a guy like Larry Ogunjobi. Doesn't really make much sense to me. Like what? He's going to be the backup to TJ Sanders? Cool. Why are you paying $6 million for that? Anyway, that's not really the problem. The problem was that when he was signed, just hours later, the NFL came out and suspended him for 6 games, the first 6 games of the season, for performance-enhancing drug violations. The worst part is, Brandon Beane came out afterwards and said that he signed both Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi under the impression of knowing they would be suspended. He kind of owned up to it, which I don't really know what's worse, not knowing or knowing, but it was just hilarious seeing that happen just in the same day. Brandon Beane comes out and says, yeah, we knew about that. It's cool. He's going to miss 6 games. You're going to pay him $6.6 million for 1 year and have him miss the first 6 games of the season, and he won't do anything for the remainder of the season? He didn't show up whatsoever. Not that I'm surprised, but he did have some impressive stints with his AFC North teams. It is what it is. Larry Ogunjobi, farewell. Okay, we're done with the defensive tackle talk, I promise. Now we're going to talk about 2 key defensive backs in this 2025 season. 2 old heads, 2 legends in Buffalo, Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White. I'm going to talk about them more together because my point on them is kind of the same. Trey White was amazing this year. Coming in on a shorthanded defensive backfield wasn't what we had expected going into the season, but he stepped up and he did what he had to do. He had that amazing play, tipping the ball for that Cole Bishop interception against Jacksonville. Also great performance throughout the entire season, signing a $3 million contract at the start of the season. And Jordan Poyer joining Buffalo, kind of in that same problem. The Bills were short-staffed. Taylor Rapp goes down. You'd prefer to lean on the more experienced guy, especially with Sean McDermott, who's able to kind of mask those flaws that the defensive backs have and kind of make them play to their strengths. And I think that's what he's done the best as a coach as a whole with the linebackers and the DBs. But we really saw it this year with Poyer and Trey White. Their IQ, their veteran presence really helped them. You know, they might not be the best athletes anymore, suffering so many injuries. You can see it. You could see that lack of speed that they have now, that lack of quickness, but it didn't matter. They really performed at a high level and did what they had to do. Now, a lot of you guys might be saying, bring them back. Why not? They're a depth piece at worst. The way I look at it is if you bring back Trey White and Jordan Poyer, you're kind of capping yourself. You're setting a ceiling because you're willing to accept mediocrity again. And when I say accepting mediocrity, it's not a slight to Trey White or Jordan Poyer. Those guys played their butts off this year. They did exactly what they were supposed to do and more. But when you bring back Trey White and you bring back Jordan Poyer, you do put that ceiling because then you look at your defensive backs, you're like, okay, we're okay. We don't need to go take a swing at someone in the draft or someone in free agency. I'm not saying to spend everything on their replacements. I think Jordan Hancock is a guy, and I think that maybe Dorian Strong could be someone in the future. But if you were to bring back Trey White and Jordan Poyer, maybe one, but not the other is okay. But if you bring back both, you're kind of just putting a Band-Aid on it. You're just going another year with an injury-prone, aging veteran. Sure, they know the system, but do they really now? Because Sean McDermott's gone too. That's got to be accounted for. If Sean McDermott is gone, who really knows how this new defense is supposed to look? I know you can do as much research as you want, but really at the end of the day, we're not going to know how it looks like until we actually see it. And I think Trey White and Jordan Poyer are Buffalo legends. They should be praised for what they did this year to the max. They didn't have to do that. It was unnecessary. But they came back and they played for their team the last year in the stadium at the Ralph. You know, I think it was just perfect. It was a perfect way to end it. And last but not least, the last 5 players in this video. I know I said I'll get to every single defensive player on the Buffalo Bills that's scheduled to hit free agency, and I'm going to deliver. The last 5 players, Damar Hamlin, Cam Lewis, Darnell Savage, Sam Franklin, all safeties, and the defensive tackle, Jordan Phillips. So starting things off, Jordan Phillips, he's going to come back probably in October, November if the Bills need him. He'll be available. It's happened countless times in the past. It's not really worth dishing out money for a guy that you know will be available later in the season. Just to cut it short. And when you're looking at guys like Damar Hamlin, Cam Lewis, Darnell Savage, Sam Franklin, Damar Hamlin had an incredible story. Magical, the way he was able to come back and play, but he just hasn't delivered. Especially since he's been off the field for so long, it doesn't make sense to invest in a guy, even if it's a veteran minimum. He can go to another team, maybe even Pittsburgh. He went to school in Pitt, so that could be pretty cool. But really the only player that intrigues me is Cam Lewis. UB alumni, played for Buffalo his whole career, undrafted, always is able to come up and step up, whether that's playing corner, playing safety, deep, center field, whatever you need him to play, he'll play it. And in my opinion, I think Cam Lewis is the only guy in that group of 5 that is worth looking at to bring back, at least at the start of the offseason. I think that he can really deliver when it matters and when his number's called upon. That doesn't mean have him as a starter, but that means maybe give him a little callback and have him stashed as one of those reserve players, lower in the depth chart, perhaps even on the practice squad to start off the season. And one last thing before I let you guys go, the Buffalo Bills restructured Spencer Brown's contract, freeing up around $10 million. As we get closer to making the cap, the more I get excited. I can't wait for this free agency, especially the first year without Sean McDermott. Things might look a little different. Going to be very cool to see. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for joining me on the second episode of Breaking Tables. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'd love to talk to you guys. And until next time, take care.